I'm Johanna Miller. I work for the Vermont Natural Resources Council. I'm joined here with colleagues, partners of the Vermont Conservation Voters, Lauren Hurl, Executive Director, and Sheldon Goodwin, also Vermont Conservation Voters. VNRC and VCV are partnering up, and this is an experiment. Welcome to our experiment with partners working on weatherization issues. Our goal was really just to try and find ways, knowing that legislators in this virtual world are extremely busy. So in this, Zoom democracy, just trying to figure out ways to use people's time very efficiently to go deep on some really important environmental issues, and starting first with a deep dive on weatherization with two of Vermont's leading experts and innovators. Dan Reilly of Efficiency Vermont is their public policy manager and really is deep in weatherization advocacy and programming. And Ludy Biddle is the executive director of NeighborWorks of Western Vermont. And NeighborWorks has for many years done incredibly important work in partnership with EVT, but really diving deep into providing especially more lower income Vermonters in targeted regions of the state with some services and some, guidance in terms of making investments in weatherization to reduce their energy burden and keep their homes held more healthy and warm. So, but knowing how important weatherization is for so many different reasons, the massive commitment coming out in the governor's budget proposal, with $25,000 in programming, or excuse me, $25 million for investing in weatherization programs, and a bigger conversation about a much deeper investment happening both in Senate Natural and out there with a very sort of wider group of partners, including Efficiency Vermont and NeighborWorks and Vermont Gas and many others, about a much more significant investment in weatherization. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan Reilly, who is deep in the weatherization world, for a quick overview, and then turn it over to Ludy, and we can answer a couple of quick questions. Dan, take it away.
Thanks so much, Joey. Again, for the record, Dan Reilly, the Public Affairs Director for Efficiency Vermont. Thank you to VNRC and VCV for hosting this important forum. And Representative Odie, good morning. I'm going to include my email address when Joey sends around the recording of this. This is a complex and nuanced topic. Please feel free to reach out with follow-up questions. Because it's a pretty big ecosystem to wrap your arms around, I am going to walk through a couple slides, but I really welcome the conversation and this important discussion of weatherization and how we scale up these efforts. And really, the number one word in this conversation that we keep hearing over and over again is about dignity, right? It's about giving people more dignity in their homes, a warm home, reducing energy bills, and helping people really be able to provide for their families. And so with that, let me sort of start at the 30,000 foot level about sort of how weatherization is funded in Vermont, and we'll kind of work down to the governor's proposal. I'm just going to share my screen briefly. And can everybody see? So to start, a very quick overview of Efficiency Vermont. We're the state's energy efficiency utility. We operate in every community in the state except for Burlington, and we have a network of partners throughout: contractors, financing. We work with great partners like Ludy, and we've been doing this work over the last 20 years. Very quickly, our results: we've helped Vermonters save over $2.6 billion in energy costs, and we've helped reduce more than 12 million metric tons of GHG. And really the key part for this work, for the weatherization discussion, is, we support a robust workforce of over 400 businesses through our energy efficiency network. Those are the contractors on the ground performing this important work. Most of our funding is for electric efficiency, funded through the electric efficiency charge on your electric bills. And really, because of cross-subsidization issues, we're unable to perform using this money to perform the weatherization work that doesn't have anything to do with electricity. We do have a budget for weatherization services, and I'm gonna walk through that very quickly. Here are the funding sources for Efficiency Vermont, the existing funding sources, I should say, currently. The first one is our total budget in 2021 is about $7 million. It's primarily funded through the forward capacity market, which is pretty complicated, but that's the regional New England electricity transmission market. It basically serves as a big auction, and power generators can buy blocks of power 3 years in advance. You bundle it together and you sell it as a credit, whether that's solar energy, offshore wind, and even now you can bundle electricity efficiency savings, as Efficiency Vermont does, and sell those credits to generate revenue. And at that and the regional greenhouse gas initiative, which is a regional cap and trade system that Vermont joined many years ago, those two markets generate about $7 million in 2020 that funds our pure weatherization work in terms of sealing homes, in terms of attic work, all of those things that don't touch electricity. That's the bulk of our funding, and I'll focus on that $7 million number. You see that in a minute. The other big funding source we had available this year comes from Act 62, which the legislature passed in 2019, which dedicated a one-time reallocation of those electricity EEC funds for moderate income weatherization. That was $2.25 million for 2019 and 2020. And I'll have a slide in a couple minutes that talks about what we were able to do with that one-time allocation of $2.25 million. And just to be very confusing, we are able to use a very small sliver of that electricity budget to fund all electric weatherization. Those are heat pumps. Those are our heat sources that run only on electricity. But again, you can see that's only $240,000 for the year, as opposed to the $7 million much bigger bucket for weatherization. The good news is we have $7 million this year, and we had almost $12 million in weatherization funding through those two auction sources that I referenced before in 2019 and 2020. But here is the bad news. These funding sources have served Vermonters well, but they're projected to decline sharply in the coming years due to a decline in revenues in that forward capacity market, that regional transmission auction. The value of these credits fluctuates from one year to the next. It's very complicated, but due to a lot of market forces, we project that it's going to drop from that peak of 10.9 million in 2019 all the way down to about 2.7 million in 2024. And I think what's most alarming is you see from 2024 to 2030, it's expected to stay there. And so we've been able to do a lot of great things with that funding source, at no cost to Vermonters, because the revenue sources were coming from outside. But you can see the sharp decline, which is really going to impact our ability to weatherize low to moderate income homes. That's the bad news, is that this funding source has declined. The good news is that there really has been a conversation in Vermont about how we address weatherization funding, about how we find these stable revenue sources. The governor has some proposals in his budget, which we really welcome. The focus on this issue. Senator Bray and Senate Natural is really focusing in on this, and so people are starting to realize it's a problem and starting to take action. And I think, I wanted to highlight this because we know with adequate funding and the right program components, we know Vermonters will weatherize. And we really have the data set from 2020 using the $2.25 million of Act 62 funding. Using that one-time infusion of cash, we launched the highest ever weatherization incentives for moderate income Vermonters. And we paired that with financing, customer outreach, technical support, and workforce development. And I think Ludy is going to talk about that in a minute, but it really is, it's critical to have all three legs of that stool. The average weatherization project in Vermont costs between $7,000 and $8,000. That's out of reach of a lot of low to moderate income folks. And so you need to have direct incentives to get it to happen. And you have to pair it with innovative financing mechanisms, and we really welcome the focus on that in the governor's proposed budget. And we have a lot of great partnerships now. You can see on the right hand side, we partner with VCSEU to do interest rate buy downs of loans and to offer different financing products, but really pair that with direct incentives to make those projects affordable. So you can see in 2020, we were able to do 1,175 comprehensive projects, nearly double the amount we were doing every year, and get 609 moderate income homes to participate. As part of the act, so do we need a new policy? Do we need, do new laws need to happen to get this, to really jumpstart our weatherization efforts? As part of this Act 62 process, the legislature tasked the Public Utilities Commission to commission a report about weatherization and about the state of weatherization funding in Vermont. We were really glad to participate in that process over the last 2 years. And really, this is the key quote from this report from the PUC. It's to support the existing resilient ecosystem of program administrators and market actors. An all fuels efficiency entity or new program is not necessary. And so I highlight this to say the PUC's conclusion was really that, we have a robust system of actors in place. We don't need to create new structures. They really focused in on the funding aspects of it. And I'm happy to talk offline about some of their funding recommendations and how that would work in terms of a thermal efficiency benefit charge. Those are all decisions for the legislature to make. I just wanted to point out that when the PUC studied this commission, they really thought that there were a lot of that the existing system of actors works. It's about getting more funding into the process. I want to turn it over to Ludy in a minute, but I think it's helpful to show this slide and really say, this is the ecosystem that it takes. We know that weatherization is hard work. We know that it takes all 4 of these buckets, right? In terms of really developing those customer partner relationships, providing direct incentives and innovative financing, and the workforce development piece is really critical. It wouldn't matter if we had $100 million to do this work. Without qualified contractors to go into these homes and perform this work, you're not going to be able to scale up quickly without that workforce development piece. And lastly, part of what Efficiency Vermont provides is really that building science expertise, right? The technical advisory services, especially as we think about how to integrate health into this weatherization work, right? It's not, saving money on heating bills is important, but it's also to think about the health of the homes, air quality. Once you're going into these homes, is it possible to make other interventions? But again, that customer and partner relationship part is so hard. You have to meet these people where we are. And that's why we're so fortunate at Efficiency Vermont to work with NeighborWorks of Western Vermont and to work with our Heat Squad partnership. And I'm glad that we're really going back to back here, because I think our partnership with NeighborWorks, it shows how well the system can work, right? In terms of partnering with people. Efficiency Vermont provides the incentives, the promotion, the training, and NeighborWorks is really that boots on the ground, trusted community partner, the one-stop shop to really help people. And so they've been a fantastic partner, nimble and innovative, and it's really something that we can build on. And so let me stop sharing my screen and stop there.
Yes, thank you, Representative Odie. That is a great question, and thank you, Sia, for joining us this morning. So, Representative Odie, I don't know if you're familiar with the Heat Squad. A little bit of history, very little. We were founded with a major grant from the Department of Energy directly in 2010, back when there was another stimulus program, and we suddenly had adequate funding to set up a new program and really experiment, to invest, such as in software and all kinds of other things. We made a claim that we would have great impact in Rutland County. We went from 9, I think it was, retrofits in the year before we started work. We claimed we would do 1,000 in Rutland County, and in 3 years, indeed, 1,000 households in Rutland County had been through the retrofit program, and 60% of them were below 120% AMI. So we've proven so many times since that if we're able to make a significant investment in the sort of boots on the ground, as Joey said, we're able to help households get through this process. That's why we're excited now. Someone said the other day that weatherization used to sort of be a side conversation in the legislature, and now it seems to be on Main Street in the legislature, which we're very happy about, because all it does is help people in the most significant way. You know, we're a housing agency, and we started this energy efficiency program because it was the fastest, bestest way to affordability in low income households. It meant that people could actually stay in their home, which is, you know, one benefit, be comfortable in their home and save $1,000 a year, which in some cases can be as much as 10% of their, you know, their disposable income. So it was the fastest. We got into it because it was an affordability issue for housers. And of course, it has greenhouse gas emissions reduction. It has all the other benefits. But we've proven that if we can educate our households, and as Dan was saying, there's a lot to education. There's science and technology that is completely new to all of us. And then there's financing that is new to these households. We are able to do all that in a very labor intensive, as I say, one-on-one process. But that's what we've always done as a nonprofit houser and housing organization. So when we do that with the Heat Squad staff, and we now have 3 people working the Northeast Kingdom, Bennington area, and we're in basically 9 counties now, and we would be statewide if we had the resources to expand our services. I think I've touched on most of what I wanted to say, just that we've proven that this will work and that we can help a lot of people with the resources to do so.
Well, one question I have for both, thank you, Ludy and Dan. So again, just a reminder, so the governor has proposed in his budget, you know, this really important, significant investment to deepen our commitment to low-income weatherization in general, which is great. And that is a foundation, kind of like harkening back to the era days and you know, the late 2000s, where we built up a labor force and we helped a lot of people, and NeighborWorks really partnered in that, make beneficial weatherization investments. And then we had to lay some people off because we couldn't maintain that level of funding and capacity. Now we have another opportunity, and clearly, as Dan articulated, a need to do a lot more, because I mean, we have, you know, statutory goals, in part some goals that are now requirements when it comes to carbon pollution reduction. I mean, our building sector is our 2nd largest carbon intensive sector. So helping Vermonters weatherize their homes has many benefits for the dollar saving, the, you know, health improving, but also the carbon benefits. And we really need to scale. There are a lot, you know, we have the 2nd oldest housing stock in the nation. We need to scale our commitment. There's very exciting, again, conversation in the budget, and then a bigger conversation about really scaling our commitment to the tune of, you know, weatherizing, you know, something in the scale of like 120,000 homes over a decade. So a massive commitment, and we have the partners in the state of Vermont to do this. And it really is a legislative conversation to figure out how we build upon the foundation we have, but how do we put the pieces together, the financing, the funding, the workforce development, and everything that Dan articulated. And so I think that was one of our goals with this conversation. Again, knowing there's so much value in doing it, wanting to really work with legislators and other partners to explore the opportunity. And really what we're talking about is an investment in ourselves, an investment in Vermonters, and stop importing, you know, we import every drop of fossil fuels that we all use to heat our homes. So that is a massive, drain and strain on our economy. And so it's a moment to reframe how we're thinking about this and the kind of economy we want to build that invests in ourselves and invests in like also climate beneficial solutions. So I think it's an ongoing conversation, and it's certainly one I look forward to having with all kinds of folks in leadership positions like you, Representative, and others who are really looking at the full landscape of all these issues and trying to figure out how do we do this well, really cost effectively, but really scale in the way that we need to for so many reasons. So I'm going to close the recording, if you don't mind, Sheldon, and say thank you everyone for your time. We're